Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 330 of the podcast. Unless you happen to be joining me live on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, do me a favor, guys. If you're audio only, which is most of you, go over to YouTube and subscribe to the show. I'm trying to get the video subscribers up here. My mom always told me I had a face for radio, so I'm trying to prove her wrong. So if you get over to YouTube and click the old subscribe button on MMA on the Rocks, I would truly appreciate it. Here we are, September the 19th, Tuesday. For anybody keeping track, I got some shadows going on here. Let's see if I can adjust this lighting. Need a new producer. All right. I know a few days late, a few dollars short, but I'll give you guys double your money back for this week. Okay. You do the math on that. 00. I'm drinking some coffee because this is a morning show now. And no, there's nothing in it. Just black coffee. I'm not that guy. You know, it's funny. I think a lot of people assume that I drink alcohol a lot more than I actually do. I don't know if that's going to be disappointing for some of you, but the internet is deceiving. I don't know if you guys know this, but when I post videos of whiskey reviews and cocktails and all that, those are pre-recorded. You know, I'm not here drinking alcohol every day. Not that I wouldn't want to be, but didn't have a chance to do the show this weekend, and I didn't even have a chance to watch the fights live because my sister and brother-in-law are in town with their two daughters. And where did we go? You guessed it, Walt Disney World. I know. I feel like such an addict every time I tell you guys about this because I keep telling you I'm done with Disney. I'm not going back. And then where do I find myself? Back at Disney World. But it was an awesome trip because my nieces are here. My niece Emily just turned 2 in June, and my other niece Julia will be 1 in November. So it was their first trip to Disney World, and not only was it so much fun to see them experience it for the first time, but it was so much fun to see other parents stress out the way I used to stress out when my daughter was that age. I got to have all the fun and they got to have all the stress. They're not used to the Florida heat and humidity. But I had a blast seeing the kids go on the rides and see the characters and everything like that. We had a great time. I did consequently miss Noche UFC, but I did go back and watch it on Sunday night, and I managed to avoid pretty much any spoilers, except from my buddy Matt Temple, who kind of spoiled the Tracy Cortez fight for me, but that's okay. I'm not bitter. All right. Let's see. Main event. Let's start there. This video game curse is real, folks. I mean, it's like Final Destination. You end up on the cover of this game, and that's it. It's curtains for you. And I want to be clear before I start talking about this. This is all tongue in cheek. I'm not a superstitious guy. My wife is downstairs just like crashing pots and pans together. Like there's not a podcast going on here. The kids aren't even here. They all went out to breakfast. So it's got to be the wife making noise. Well, hopefully she's crashing those pots and pans together and make something delicious. In any case, this video game curse, it's the real deal, right? It has to be. Every fighter who's appeared on the video game cover has lost their next fight. So, it was Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey. I don't know who else was on that damn game. Jorge Masvidal. It's just curtains for you when you end up on there. So Adesanya ends up on the cover. He's one of 3 on the cover of the new game. and Shevchenko. So 2 out of 3. If you're Volkanovski, you got to be thinking like, shit, maybe I should just retire. Because here you're seeing you don't even have to lose the fight for the curse to come true, because I believe Valentina did enough to win this fight, and it ends up being a split draw. And it all came down to one judge's bad scorecard. Mike Bell, for whatever reason, decided that the 5th round was a 10-8 for Alexa Grasso just because she got Valentina's back. And I guess I get it. Maybe he was a little confused. He's not too familiar with these positions, and it seemed to him like Grasso was close to finishing the fight. She wasn't. That rear naked choke position is not a dangerous position in itself. It's one of the easier submissions to defend. And I know a lot of you are going to say, like, well, why are there so many rear naked chokes in the UFC and in MMA in general? It's because that's a submission that you allow to happen to you when you're kind of done fighting. So you've been rocked or you're just exhausted. Because most of the time, if you see a rear naked choke finish, the person getting finished isn't hand fighting. They're not doing any of the right things. They just kind of like, oh no, I'm being choked. And then comes the tap. I would say 9 times out of 10, when you see a fighter defending that submission properly, they don't get finished with it. It's actually pretty difficult to sink in that choke with the 4-ounce gloves on. It's pretty tricky. So unless you see somebody just kind of grab it in a transition, you're not going to see a whole lot of finishes from somebody just getting to the back. So Mike Bell gives a 10-8 round to Alexa Grasso in that 5th round. And that one score was the swing score, because if he had scored it a 10-9 like he should have, the decision would have been a split decision win for Valentina Shevchenko. Unfortunate. I thought Valentina looked better in this fight. I thought she definitely did more damage. You could tell by Alexa Grasso's face that she got the worst end of this fight. And I really only gave Alexa Grasso the 2nd round. I guess you could give her the 5th round too, because she wound up on Valentina's back. But, I thought Valentina won most of that round. But I definitely scored 1, 3, and 4 for Valentina. And even the 2nd round, Alexa got that knockdown, but I just thought Valentina was out of position and off balance. I didn't think she really got rocked or anything there, and she recovered pretty quickly from it. I mean, look, it was a competitive fight, but in my opinion, based on the 2 fights, and I know Alexa got the finish in the first fight, based on the 2 fights, in my opinion, Valentina Shevchenko is still the better mixed martial artist. However, you have to give credit to Alexa Grasso. She showed so much patience and so much poise, and she waited until the last minute for Valentina to make a mistake, and it was damn near the same mistake she made in the first fight, going for a spinning attack and giving up her back. So it got her finished in the first fight, and it almost got her finished in the second fight, in the rematch. And it probably cost her the decision here. So what happens now? And while I say I think Valentina won, I want to completely discredit her statement that the judges gave it to her because they were fighting on Mexican Independence Day and Alexa Grasso is Mexican. I do not believe that had anything to do with it. It was a very cringeworthy moment when she said that and accused the judges of scoring it a draw because it was Mexican Independence Day. I just want to go on record that I definitely do not agree with that. So let's leave it at that. Now, what's next? I think typically in this situation, if we had another contender that was ready to go, in line, coming off an impressive win, then I'd say we don't do an immediate rematch here because we've seen this twice. Alexa Grasso finished her the first time, second time was a draw. All right, they're evenly matched. Let's move on and get something else for a little bit of parity. However, based on the rankings here, we have obviously Valentina is still going to be ranked number 1. I didn't see the current rankings today. Maybe if I just refresh this page I'm on, but I don't want to lose it. Then we have Erin Blanchfield, who, is coming off a win against Tyler Santos, but, she got pieced up in that fight and didn't look so great in the first round and didn't look so great at the end of the fight. Then we had Manon Fior, who is tied for second with Erin Blanchfield. And Manon Fior, yeah, she's coming off a win, but she's coming off a win over a Rose Namajunas who was moving up for the first time in the division and had one hand from the first round. So she couldn't finish a one-handed strawweight. I don't think you put her into a title shot based on that. And then after that is Tyler Santos coming off a loss, and then the division kind of falls off from there. There's nobody else really in the conversation for that title shot. So based on this, I would say either it depends on what Alexa Grasso wants to do. Also, I'd say Erin Blanchfield and Manon Fior have to fight. Now you could either do the rematch between Shevchenko and Grasso, do the third fight. But then if Valentina wins, then do we have to do a fourth one to get a winner? Because otherwise it's 1-1-1. But either way, I say have Blanchfield and Fior fight, and then the winner gets the title shot. And, you could do Shevchenko and Grasso for the third time on the same card as this. I think the timing would work out pretty well. Yeah, that's what I would say should happen. And yeah, it'd be interesting because, and I think that the worst matchup for anyone at the top is no, I'm going to hold back on that. Let's see. Matt Temple says Blanchfield is more deserving of a shot than Grasso was when she got one. That's fair. That's fair. But, I mean, do you just bypass Manon Fior then? I guess we could do. I just feel like with the striking of Grasso and the takedown defense she's shown, and the fact that in her last fight, Erin Blanchfield struggled to take down a better striker, I just feel like we're not, at this point, we're not looking at a very competitive fight. It is my only issue with putting that fight together. But, I mean, to be fair, I didn't think Alexa Grasso would be as competitive with Valentina Shevchenko. In any case, moving on. This is going to be a quick episode today, folks. So apologies for that. Co-main event, Jack Della Maddalena split decision win over Kevin Holland. If you told me that there was one fight on the main card that was a total snooze fest, and you made me guess without watching the card, this would have actually been my very last pick. I would have chosen every single other fight on the main card over this one, and I would have been wrong. This fight was not good. It was, neither guy was really doing enough to push for the win. I could see it being a split decision. I think Jack landed the bigger shots. He was having a little bit of trouble with the range of Kevin Holland, but not so much trouble that, he couldn't land anything. He was landing some big shots. Just no risks taken, really. on the side of either guy. Both guys were trying to play it safe. And, I wouldn't have minded if this one was a draw. But split decision win for Jack Della Maddalena. Kevin Holland, man, it is just so frustrating for me, especially, being a coach, because I see guys like Kevin Holland who have so much talent and so much ability, but don't have the drive. It seems like he's content just being in there and just fighting. And he's even said, he's gone as far as say that he doesn't want to fight for a title, and that he's opened his own gym and he's calling all the shots and he's running his training camp. This is not a good sign for me. I mean, here's a guy who has, he's a black belt under Travis Lutter. Travis Lutter, who fought for the UFC middleweight championship back in the day, coming off of season 4 of The Ultimate Fighter, and was an excellent fighter. I'm sure he's a great coach. But here's Kevin Holland saying he wants to call his own shots. He doesn't really want to fight for a title. You have a guy with so much talent and potential who has no goals and no real direction for his career. And that's going to result in the kind of performance we saw on Saturday night, where he's just kind of in there without a strategy, not making adjustments, and not really pressuring for the win because he's just happy to be there. And that's frustrating for me. And, I have I had no dog in this race when it comes to this fight, but, just my mentality as a coach, because I've seen guys who kind of have this where, they do so well in the gym and nobody can touch them in sparring, but they're just not motivated. They don't want to put in the extra work. They don't even really want to compete. And it's the kind of thing where once things start to not go their way, they just kind of give up, and I would hate to see that for Kevin Holland because he's come so far. He's developed a fan base. He seems like a smart guy. Like he knows what to do in there. On the other side of the coin, at least we did see some adjustments from Jack where he realized he had to stop talking shit in there and, start trying to win the fight and put more of an effort. So I'm okay with him getting the split decision win. But overall, a disappointing fight because these are two guys who are never in boring fights. But, sometimes that cancels each other out. We saw it with Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou many moons ago. Raul Rosas Jr. getting it done in under a minute against Terrence Mitchell. This just became a slugfest, and luckily he was able to land that kind of like left shovel hook that landed right on Terrence Mitchell's chin and stiffened him up, jumped on top of him, got the ground and pound. I wouldn't say we're seeing an improvement in his striking, but here's what I would be happy about if I was in the corner of Rosas Jr., that he was able to bounce back from the mauling he took in his first professional loss. It came on a big stage. He had a lot of eyes on him as being such a young kid in the UFC, youngest fighter on the roster. He had a lot of hype behind him. And, the beatdown he took in that last fight, it said a lot how he was able to bounce back from that. As far as this fight, yeah, he got into a slugfest and, they were both swinging wild and he was able to land a bigger shot first. Terrence Mitchell overextending, put himself out of position with his strikes, trying to swing so hard on this kid. And, he paid for it. And that's what happens. You got two guys just swinging their arms. Basically, the first one to connect is going to be the one to come out on top, and that was Rosas Jr. Taking nothing away from him, I'm sure his striking is going to progress really fast. He's still young. We know he has the grappling, so There it is. All right. Daniel Zellhuber with the anaconda choke over Christos Giagos. So Giagos was having a hard time with the range of Zellhuber in the first round. He was able to get inside the pocket and land some shots. But overall, he got frustrated with it to the point where he was trying to force the takedown in the second round. And we know that Giagos can wrestle, but we also know that, he has fallen in love with his punching power. So he wasn't able to land the shots he wanted to. So he was trying to force the takedown. And, Zellhuber just has those Gumby arms. He was just able to wrap up the neck of Giagos, and it was a done deal from there. He didn't even he had such a tight squeeze, he didn't even have to hook the leg to get the tap. So very impressive finish from Zellhuber there. But it just shows you gotta keep your head up when you're in on those takedowns, folks. Otherwise, long arm guy like that is gonna snatch your neck up. Kyle Nelson and Fernando Padilla. I actually didn't agree with this decision. Kyle Nelson getting the unanimous decision. The first round was all Padilla. He was landing big shots. He was landing, elbows from across the cage. Another rangy kid. I thought he looked fantastic. Busted Kyle Nelson up in that first round. Then Kyle Nelson comes back after taking a thrashing and getting bloodied up in that first round. Comes back and wins the second round. And then the third round was kind of uneventful, but I thought Padilla did a little bit more and should have gotten the nod there. I don't think it's a robbery or anything. I just didn't score it the way the judges did. So that's that. Lupita Godinez with a dominant performance over Elise Reed, just all over her, smothered her, got the rear naked choke. Roman Kopylov, big win over Josh Friend. Knocked him out with a body shot at the end of the second round. And then I heard this Edgar Charez and Daniel Da Silva fight was pretty controversial. There was some kind of submission, and then Chris Tognoni stepped in early, so it was reviewed by the instant replay, and they called it a no contest because I guess Chris Tognoni stopped it a little bit prematurely. I'm not going to beat him up over it because I'm sure he's already beat himself up enough. And then close fight between Tracy Cortez and Jasmine Jasudavicius. And Tracy Cortez, coming away with a win, big win after, everything she's gone through in her personal life, very public breakup with Brian Ortega and being away from the octagon for so long. It had to feel good for her to get that win. Charlie Campbell, first round TKO over Alex Reyes. And yeah, pretty solid card overall. Let's take a look towards next week because this is a really fun main event. Rafael Fiziev and Mateusz Gamrot. This is going to be a fun fight at lightweight. And is Fiziev coming off the loss to Justin Gaethje still? Has he not fought since then? I believe so. Yes. So that was back in March where, Justin Gaethje just put on a striking clinic against Rafael Fiziev. Now he's going to get in there with a completely different style fight against Mateusz Gamrot, who this guy is just a monster, man. He's coming off of that split decision win over Jalen Turner, but if I remember correctly, that was a last minute replacement for Gamrot, and he was supposed to fight a completely different body type. So we're not going to hold that against him. But Gamrot, he has the loss to Beneil Dariush, but he's got wins over Arman Tsarukyan, Diego Ferreira, Jeremy Stevens. This is an interesting one. Obviously, Gamrot's going to be looking to drag Fiziev to the ground, but Fiziev has, elite striking, and he's got really good takedown defense as well. Bryce Mitchell and Dan Ige, this is a really interesting fight. Bryce Mitchell, obviously, he's got that top shelf grappling, but then he's coming off of submission loss against Ilia Topuria. So it's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back from that. Is he going to want to redeem himself grappling wise and try and take Dan Ige down? Is he going to try and stand with him? And then, of course, Dan Ige has that equalizing power. And this fight's at featherweight. Yes, featherweight. He's got that equalizing power at featherweight. That's how I should have finished that sentence. Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waterson Gomez. Okay. Brian Battle and AJ Fletcher. That's a fun fight. What else we got? Dan Argueta and Miles Johns. I like that. Tim Means and Andre Fiallo. Here's my sleeper pick. This is going to be a nasty fight. Somebody's going to get knocked out here. These are two guys who both like to throw hands, and neither one of them like to back down. Fiallo's got more of a boxing style. Tim Means will mix it up a little bit more. And if need be, Tim Means has wrestling to fall back on. He's a really solid grappler. Then we got Kamaru Usman's brother Muhammad against Jake Collier at heavyweight. Let's not forget Jake Collier, former middleweight. Mizuki Inoue against Hannah Goldie. I didn't realize Hannah Goldie was back on the UFC roster, but yeah, Mizuki I've been hearing about for a long time, coming out of the Serra-Longo team. That should be an interesting fight. All right. Fun card. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be back at the UFC Apex. And that's pretty much all I got. You know, I wanted to jump on, and I'm trying to stay consistent with this stuff, you know, guys. And we're in talks of adding a second episode every week. Maybe it won't be this week, but and it's going to be kind of a fight picks style episode. And it's not going to be me making the picks. I'll give some more details on that at a later time, but thinking about adding a second shorter episode every week. So I'll keep you guys all in the loop on that. I appreciate all the support on the content I've been putting on Instagram and TikTok and the YouTube shorts and everywhere else. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on the technique videos. If you have any requests, please leave me a comment. You know, anything in terms of Muay Thai technique or wrestling for jiu-jitsu. Some jiu-jitsu stuff I will do, but not really a specialty area for me. I specialize more in the standing grappling and the takedowns, Muay Thai clinch, things like that. But if there is anything you want to see, or if there's any whiskeys you want to see me review, definitely leave a comment. And again, just thanks everybody for tuning in to anything, whether you're listening, just listen to the podcast, or you just watch the technique videos, or you just like the whiskey reviews. I appreciate all of you equally. And if you want to grab some MMA on the Rocks merchandise, you can do so at reaper1.co. Promo code MMA Rocks 10. Save yourself 10%. You can get yourself an over-the-top, under the influence t-shirt, tank top, or hoodie. Hoodie season is rapidly approaching, folks. Make sure you buy two, because you know your girlfriend's going to steal one. You know, sage advice from old Bill here today. Anyway, I hope everybody has a fantastic week. And that's it. That's all I got. I'm going to finish my coffee and go play with my nieces. Until next time. Cheers, everybody. Bye.